She's a 6-time Ironman distance champion. She's a holder of over 25 half Ironman distance win, multiple world record holder.
You have to lift and you have to go to fatigue, and you should be doing it 2 to 3 times a week. You also, when you lift and do strength, you want to increase your protein intake.
So what's the difference between sarcopenia and osteoporosis?
Okay, sarcopenia is muscle loss and osteoporosis is bone density loss.
Why strength training is a cornerstone of longevity?
From the age of 30, we lose 1% of bone density and muscle mass every year. Actually, I read the other day, 93% of Americans are pre-diabetic or diabetic.
When you were working to be a champion, you were going by feeling? Hi, welcome to today's podcast. Today, I'm so thrilled to have a true legend in the world of endurance sport, Rebekah Keat. So Coach Bek is a real athlete. She's a 6-time Ironman distance champion. She's a holder of over 25 half Ironman distance win, multiple world record holder, but the most important thing, she's got an amazing soul. She's here to serve and to give back. She got an amazing ranch. She's a co-founder of the Belief Ranch and Rescue, where she saved hundreds, I don't know how many, probably hundreds, thousands of horses from slaughter. And she's also a co-founder of Team Serious Triathlon alongside with her wife, Siri Lindley. She's a world champion and a motivational speaker. So they're helping people get in peak fitness, and she's here with us, and I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Jonathan. And I can say, I might be a professional athlete and very good at endurance sports, but I tell you what, you guys, I spent 5 days full immersion with this guy. There's not many people that can outdo me. He outdid me. He jumped higher. He bounced higher. He was literally the energizer bunny. And I was like, I've met my match right here. So I loved you from day one. You're awesome. You're such a great part of the team. And
Thank you so much.
So great to meet you.
Yeah, so we had the pleasure to meet during a Tony Robbins event, and we just connected together. And I'm so blessed today to have an opportunity to speak to you about two of my passions. So one of them is longevity, and the second is exercising, sport.
Love it.
So Coach Bek, first, is it okay if I call you Coach
I love
Bek?
being called Coach Bek. So I'm not coaching you yet, but I will be. I just know it.
I know. So I would love to have at the end of our talk today, kind of blueprint of what would be a clear, actionable blueprint for exercising for longevity.
Great.
So the goal is simple. Basically, how can someone in their 30s implement the best exercise philosophy and routine now to stay strong, healthy, and thrive beyond 100? So I put exercise routine, but also philosophy. I think the philosophy is more important because sometimes we can create an agenda and a workout routine, but we can slip. The goal is to really have a good mindset about it.
100%.
So I decided to kind of structure the interview in 4 pillars. The first one, and 4 pillars that I believe are keystone, cornerstone of health, of exercise actually. So number 1 would be strength training.
Yep.
Number 2 will be cardio.
Yep.
Number 3 will be balance and flexibility. Okay. And number 4 will be recovery.
Love it.
So do you feel like we should add something else, or that's a good foundation to start?
I think that's really good. They're probably obviously you said you have to have the right mindset to do all of this. And my wife is a superpower of that. And you're very good too. But I would say definitely all of those. And I would add to which is really part of the what did you say? Flexibility is like mobility and stability. Yeah. Is really important too. That's part of it. So definitely you've covered most of the key pillars there.
Sure. Yeah, it would be great when we go into that session that you explain me the difference, because maybe it's just I'm French Canadian, so maybe it's the way I say it.
Yeah,
but maybe there's some nuances that are great to know.
Okay.
And in each pillars, there's 5 questions I would like to ask to you. So the first one would be, why is this pillar essential for longevity? Number 2, what type of exercise should people focus on? Number 3 would be, what's the optimal frequency? Daily, weekly, every month. Number 4 will be how can people track their progress and ensure they're on the right path?
Sure.
And finally, number 5, Coach Bek, other advice or, anything you would like to share will be just outstanding.
Okay, so let's
Ready?
go. I'm ready.
Ready to roll. So, pillar number 1, strength training. So,
hmm
tell me, what do you think about that? Like, why strength training is a cornerstone of longevity?
I think strength training is extremely important. And I think when we talk about 30 to 100 years old, 30-year-olds to 100-year-olds, the scary thing is, when you're in your 30s, you're like, I can do anything, I can eat anything pretty much
Mhm.
reasonably. And I work out a little bit, but, your health isn't, as for most people, not as much as a priority. But then you kind of start to hit 40, 45. Most of my
Mm.
clients are, perimenopausal and menopausal women. And I have a lot of guys in the 45 to 70 year age as well. So that's our key demographic. And the scary thing is, from the age of 30, we lose 1% of bone density and muscle mass every year, right? It
Wow.
starts to decline. So
Wow.
the
At what
time
age? What age you think?
from about 30 years on, 30 to 35. So,
Oh.
I'm at 45 and I start to see my muscle loss go. And it's the same with men, women
Mm,
specifically, because we don't have our hormones change and we
mm,
don't have the estrogen. We're not producing collagen. Our testosterone lowers, same in men. It starts to lower, and estrogen is responsible for collagen production. So then you're getting more injuries because your tendons and ligaments are getting weaker, and you start to see this decline. So what my goal is as a coach is for my 40 plus to 70-year-old women and men is, let's stop it. We can't reverse it, but let's stop it in its tracks. So strength training, to your question, tell me if I go too long here, is so important because we want to stop that decline of bone density and muscle loss. And the best way to do that is strength training. And you
mm.
have to be very careful. There's sort of like it's a catch 22, because you want to go to fatigue. You want to try and lift heavy, but you've got to be very careful when you start to get above 40, 45, especially with women, with the lack of collagen and the hormone fluctuations. You're much more prone to injury. So we tend to go with our strength work. And as I said, before you're 40, you don't have to be as careful. But after kind of 40, we reduce our plyometrics a little bit, and plyometrics is like the explosive stuff, like the box jumps. You see so many
Mhm.
injuries from that. The jumping, watch this guy jump. This guy can jump higher than anyone I've ever seen. I tell you, his jumps are. I can jump like half a foot.
I got big legs.
He's a pogo stick. You know those
Yeah,
pogo sticks? Yeah, he's a badass. I was terrible at plyometrics, but you have to be really careful as you age. So we want to go to
but
fatigue. Yeah.
but did you say like we lose 1% per
hmm
year, and that's life? Like we cannot like
Standard. You can stop it.
so.
You can
Okay, so we
stop it
can
or
stop it.
slow it down, but you can't reverse the damage.
You cannot reverse the damage. And
No,
is there
unless
studies on
I'm
that
not.
or?
There is studies, but I do think, there's obviously the exogenous hormone approach, taking
Mhm.
testosterone. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
into that, especially
No,
for
no, no.
women
That's,
with the
mhm.
increasing cancer, and stuff like that. But it's very, very hard. And bone density, I know there's stuff out there now that can increase it, that you can take, but I'm a real fan for the natural, holistic, functional way.
Mm,
And I just want to stop. We want to stop that from happening. We want it to, or at least slow it down. And we can
mhm,
do that, but you have to lift and you have to go to fatigue, and you should be doing it 2 to 3 times a week. You
mhm,
also, when you lift and do strength, you want to increase your protein intake, because the muscle loss is not just from not
mm,
the weight bearing and the strength work that you might be lacking. It's loss of protein. The muscles also atrophy, and you want to really increase. Again, I know I go to many menopause and perimenopausal women, but it is men as well. But that's my core client. Um, I get them to increase their protein when they're doing the
mhm,
strength training, and I know you know all about this. So we tend to go for about 1 gram minimum per kilo of body weight per day.
mm.
So at least for me, I'm
But
60 kilos. Yeah,
would
60
you say
grams.
that if someone doesn't change like his diet, but just do his strength training, would you say that this person won't have the full benefit of it, or
100%. Yeah. You need to
okay,
have those amino acids to build the
so
muscle.
those goes together,
Goes
those two.
together for sure. Yep, goes together
And
for longevity.
mm,
And for me, it's all about, with my clients, exactly the same as you. It's longevity. I want to live longer. I want to be able do all the compound movements when I'm 80, 90 years
Yes,
old, you know, be able
exactly.
to hang the washing out and lift something up to the cupboard and bend down and not break my kneecap. And I've seen in, you know, my mum's mum and even my grandmother, who weren't that active, like they have osteoporosis and they have a little bit of
Mhm.
dementia. And we can talk about that with the other exercises. But strength training, I think, is as you age, is just as important as cardio, if not more. Yeah.
Mm. So can you explain me like the term sarcopenia? Like,
Yes.
is it so? What's the difference between sarcopenia and osteoporosis?
Okay,
And,
sarcopenia is muscle loss, and
okay,
osteoporosis is bone loss,
okay.
bone density loss. And I know there's a big phase with OsteoStrong. I was doing it.
Mhm.
I have to get back to that. But OsteoStrong puts pressure on the bone, and it can actually cause osteocytes to produce
Mhm.
bone. They say that actually helps increase bone density, but a lot of people don't have access. You know, I try to do it the way
Mhm.
with the less cost effective, the most cost effective. So we can't all afford to go to OsteoStrong. If you have one near you, I recommend it. But
Mhm.
I also try to go towards the non you know, big pharma side. So I don't want people to
Mhm.
go and get stuff to try to increase their bone density and then all these other effects, the cumulative
Sure.
effects it might have on
Sure.
your system. So I think strength training and
Strength training is the
is
key. I
is
mean,
the
that's
key.
like the pill to, and I think why I wanted to talk first about that is just because I feel like as we age, that's something that people like kind of pull on the side.
They do.
People will run, you know, they will do some cardio,
Mm-hmm.
and they will just, you know, they will just don't do strength training,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and I believe it's really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
But how important it is, I don't know. You know,
Mm-hmm.
is it like is this more important than cardio? Like, if you have to pick one, or like, you know?
Probably from there's so much more research now. I'm exercise science, exercise nutrition background, and even then, the studies that they have now weren't available. But there's so much research on just high intensity exercise, like 15 to 20 minutes. If I
Hmm.
had to choose personally, I would say heart and lungs is just edges out the strength, just
Yeah.
because heart and lungs is way more important for adding more years, because your heart and lungs is what keeps you alive. But you know, they got to come. If you just get 15 to 20 minutes a day, that's what we do with Siri and Back squats, 15 to 20 minutes, and we include hits, the long aerobic stuff, and the strength. And you can
Hmm.
do it. You don't need equipment. Someone like you who's young and strong, you're probably going to have to get weights and you're going to have to lift heavier, because compound movements might not, like body weight stuff might be enough for
Hmm.
you. But in general, starting off, body weight is enough as long as you can go to fatigue. And fatigue means you go to the point where you really can't do any more. You know, you like Tony says, what does your coach say? Three more. And you think you've only got, like, you're done. There's always
Hmm.
more. So you want to go to fatigue, but you have to be really careful to not get injured. So you need to have a coach that is teaching you good form is really important,
You do the
especially,
movement,
yeah.
you correctly. You know, that's the mentality of the people usually. What I mean, when you go to gym, or you know, oh, how much weight did you, you know, how much
Yeah.
plate did you put? And the reality is that, you know, if you don't do the movement correctly, what's the
You'll
point? You
hurt
know, you're
yourself.
gonna injure yourself, and
Yeah.
you're gonna flex for what? I mean,
Yeah.
you know. So that's the philosophy that I want people to
Mm-hmm.
have. It's
Mm-hmm.
the goal is not to be strong now. It's to make sure that we are strong at 100 years old.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's a balance between injury and
Mm-hmm.
result. You know, like so.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
okay, so that's really nice. And what would be like, so the what type of exercise would you recommend? Like,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about like the gym. You know, like, would you
Mm-hmm.
recommend some section of the body? Is there like,
Yep.
you know, more important section than the other, or what's your take on that?
Really great questions, Jonathan. I love it. I would say overall body weight, you want to do all the muscle groups. So we usually do, I mean, with our Syrian back squad fitness group, we do 2 strength sessions a week. We do full body. If you want to go dive really deep and really focus on the strength, you could do, you know, different, you could do a push and a pull, which push is basically chest, shoulders, triceps, and then pull would be lat, traps, biceps. So a lot of my guys though that come to us that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, it's usually their posture they have a lot of issues with. So I tend to lean more towards back exercises. It's going to help their postural muscles and legs and core. And that could just be like lat pull down, seated row, because most people that become like this when they're older or from office jobs,
Mhm.
they're really like hunched forward. Your posture's beautiful,
Mhm.
but you want to be like
Not
bringing
this
it,
one.
yeah, you want to be going down and back. So anything
Mhm.
that's bringing your muscles down and back, so lat pull down, seated row, reverse flies, anything that's helping with your posture is something I focus on more with our guys. And then leg strength, and that can be done by honestly doing, I'm sure you could do 5,000 squat jumps if you had to. Us in our
Mhm.
40s, 45, 50, we tend to like be more cautious of our knees, so I just tell them to do squats or a wall hold. But you kind of got to go to that. It's called DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. If you don't have that, 1 or 2 days after, you're probably not quite going to fatigue. So you do want to go to where it hurts. I hate to say, but that's where you get the results. You've got to, if you're just doing
So,
10 squats, it's not going to do a lot. You want to go to
mm,
fatigue. Yeah.
so you put a lot of like attention on fatigue. So that's for strength training. You feel like that's the like
Yeah.
if for example like if I do yeah, okay. So you really want to push the limit. So
You,
okay.
you've got to, it's a fine balance. Like for you, someone who is young, say in their 30s and they're less prone to injury, um, yeah, you can sort of build towards going to fatigue right away. I would say that if you're sort of just starting couch potato or haven't done strength for a long time, I usually have this typical 3 by 15 to 20 reps. It's high
Mhm.
reps. It doesn't have to go right to fatigue where you're going to injure yourself. But once you've sort of got that, that those compound movements good and your technique's good, after about three
Mhm.
months, you should really, really try starting to go to fatigue. And sometimes fatigue for someone might be like a push up on a bench and they can only do three of them, or it might even be a
Mhm.
wall push up. Like they can't even, because
Mhm.
their shoulders, they might have frozen
Sure.
shoulder. On my 60-year-old women, I don't have them doing push-ups even on a
Mhm.
bench. They'll do it on the wall, and that's enough for
Yeah.
them. And they just go to
Yeah.
their own fatigue. So it's really important to work to your own ability and your own
Mhm.
body's limitations. And as I said,
Mhm.
30, 40, 50, every 10 years is different, every 5 years, or
Mhm.
injuries, or some people are just more natural. So you just have to work
Yeah.
to your own ability.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and you got to start slowly so you can see the progress, and then you get a hook on that, you know.
Yep,
And
exactly.
so, in terms of exercise type, I mean, would you say that you can have the same kind of result of longevity wise doing like gym exercise with gym equipment versus like body weight, or you would say is there one better if you have the luxury to have
Mm.
access to it, you know?
I love
Like,
variety.
if I,
Yeah, good question. I love variety, and people love that too.
mm,
Most of our guys don't have access to a lot of gym equipment, and a lot of them are sort of middle aged, 45 to 60. So we do mostly body weight. But then there's people that are naturally strong that go, well, push ups for me doesn't do a lot now. And I said, well, you need to start doing chest press, especially for the men. Like I've got men that they want to do the chest press and they want to feel the weights. But for women, usually you can get away with doing it just mostly with body weight, but it's really hard to do like the back exercises. Like if someone's posture is really bad, I was like, you got to get in and do Brian Bradley's
mm,
movements, or you've got to get in and do your lat pull down, your seated row, your reverse flies.
mm,
So I'll tell them they should be focusing on that. But yes, that's a great question. It also sort of depends where they're at, their age, and if they can get the results, and if they sort of hit a plateau, they may need to move into the gym and start
mm.
doing heavier
So,
lifting. Yeah.
So my goal is really like, okay, so what would be the best ultimum, you know? So
Mm.
let's say, so in the best ultimum, you have access to everything, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
so let's take that like into consideration. So would you, so I heard like variety,
Yep.
you know, like to get, so would you say that it's better to have, to do both, you know, like to, so you get different movement?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. So when I used to do gym work, and still I do this with some of my one-on-one clients, we might do chest press into push-ups, and we
Mm-hmm.
might do leg press into squats. So
Mm-hmm.
you're doing both. And we might do, oh, what else is there? Yeah, things like that. And then you've got biceps, triceps, but really these like isolated movements aren't really compound movements that are really going to do a lot other than make it look nice. So you've
Yeah.
got nice arms there. But I don't really focus on like the single movements like that. I focus
Mhm.
more on the holistic, the whole body movement. But
Mm.
yeah, ideally you want to variety is good, it's always good. And then yeah, doing both would be great because body weight's important as well. But generally if you can do a ton of push-ups, you're usually pretty strong in your pec muscles and you're going to be really good at chest press and stuff like that. But
Sure.
ideally, yeah, you want to you could if you have the option to go to the gym, it would be great
Mm.
to do both. Yeah.
And what would be like the best schedule, like in terms like how many time? Is it like the session that it's important? Is it like to do it every day? Is it like 3 times a week, 5 times? Like if we think like optimal for longevity,
Sure.
and
I'd say
you know,
twice a week because I think more than twice a week can be a lot. It can be a lot for someone to try to fit in. So we do twice a week. So we recommend at least twice a week. And with if you are going to fatigue, I mean, when you get that strong and you're able to push through to fatigue, I usually have my guys doing like they have 2 days in between. So it would be like Monday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Friday. So they have that rest in between if we're doing full
mm,
body weight. But if you're just going to do push exercises, if say I've got men in my group, they want to do all chest, all shoulders, all triceps one day, really fatigue it, and then do all legs and core and back the next day or something like that. They'll mix it up. So they'll do, you can still be fatigued from it, but they could do like back to back. So
mm,
they could do chest one day and then back the next day or back the day after. They don't need those like sort of 2 or 3 days in between, depending on
mhm.
what you want to achieve. Yeah.
So in your mind, 2 times per week, and what's like the session, like an hour every time, like
No, you
30 minutes?
can honestly, I could whip it around in 20 minutes if you do it properly. You have to have the rest in between. Like I tend to take about a minute between sets, but um you should be able to do it in 20 minutes if you're doing the right exercises. If you have the luxury of an hour doing every exercise, yes, but we most of our guys can do it in 20 minutes.
So, so I have like so I'm gonna do a parenthesis of my own life. I mean, so I'm doing like 3 workout a week, and it's about like 45 minutes. And but it's I got like a coach that, but sometimes it's like 60 second, 90 second in between rep.
Yeah.
So we do superset. But
Yeah.
I mean, so I feel it takes more time, but maybe I'm not pushing enough to the limit, and that's something that really resonates with me. I'm doing the exercise. Yes, it's tough, but I mean,
Are you
can I,
going to
can I be
fatigue?
more optimal?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. How many days apart are you doing the strength?
So kind of, like one day off, one day in, one day off,
Does he do
alternate with running.
Okay, is it full body or push pull or how does he?
So every day is different, so there's like 3 days different. So it's kind of, typical gym structure, but I mean, it's a 45 an hour. So I would love, I mean, we'll
We'll
have
have to do
another
one together.
discussion.
I'll do one with
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do a one-on-one on that, because I mean, time is scarce. I mean,
Mhm.
we got everybody's busy, and the thing is, for people that travel a lot, that
Yeah.
has a busy life, I mean, to knock in 3 sessions of 1 hour per week can be
It's a
tough.
lot.
So
Yeah. Yeah, that's why we
so-
framed it for our group as, most of them work full time, most of them have families, or 24 horses like we do to take care of, and they don't have like 45 to an hour, and then they've got to get to the
yeah.
gym and get back. So we try to keep it at 15 to 20. But hey, if you have the luxury, like when I was an elite athlete, like professional athlete, I would spend an hour because I had the time to do it. So I wanted to take my time and, do
So did
everything.
you? So did you do so? I mean,
Mm.
and as I said at the intro, I mean, you won six. That's seven, actually.
Yeah.
So you won six like Ironman distance, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, you won it like number one,
Yeah,
6 times.
I was ranked world number one in 2012 and got the world record in 2009. And
You're a champion, I mean, it's
yeah,
you're,
it's when I look back, I think, "Ah, man, like I just I don't know how I did it. I don't know how I did it, but I've applied
Mm,
exactly the same approach to running my businesses and especially taking care of my horses and creating our
mm,
nonprofits. It's the same mindset. It's just
yeah,
100% all in dedication.
sure.
Yeah.
And did you so in that season of your life, did you focus a lot on the strength training, or
We did
more on? on the sport, like on
Yeah,
the
on definitely on the
training.
sport. Yeah, it's sport specific strength. That's a great question because now there's a lot more people doing it. A lot more people doing strength work specifically in the gym.
Really?
But my
Okay.
race was 9 hours. Like the world record, I got 8 hours 39. But it was 3.8 kilometer swim, 180 kilometer bike, and then a marathon. So my
Yeah.
time had to be dedicated to swim, bike, run. But I
Mm.
think now looking back, if I had have done really specific heavy strength training, it probably would have helped me a lot on the bike, especially for power. But with that
Mm.
much, aerobic exercise, I really had to focus on swim, bike, run. But we did 2 sessions a week with actually the top strength trainer in the country who now works with my athletes. She got voted
Mm.
USA Strength Coach of the Year, Erin Carson. She's
Wow.
amazing. I'd love to get you on your podcast. She's unreal.
Mm.
She has all the top
Nice.
professionals, but she even works with everyday people. And I realized working with her the last 3 years of my career that injury
Mm.
prevention too, it's so important, like not just
Mm.
strength but injury prevention. And there was a lot of stuff that I probably could have done and would have been less injured. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So would you say basically like for day-to-day life, like when we work out, it's like if we see it as an insurance for the future, like,
Hmm.
I will not fall down because I will be stronger, or I will not break my hip when I will be 90 years old because I'm going to be, more strong. Like,
Exactly.
do you think people should see it as an insurance,
Oh
or
my God,
like you
100%.
deposit, deposit money in your bank account, but you deposit in your insurance policy, like your
Exactly. Like,
personal.
right. And people say, well, I can't afford a personal trainer. Or I can't afford, even ours is
Mm,
$67 a month. It's nothing. And I said,
yeah,
well, it's going to be a lot more when your body has some sort of chronic illness, cancer, or you break your hip. That's going to cost you more than just what this is
yeah,
to stay away from that, to prevent that. So, yeah, do you want to
yeah.
invest in it now or do you want to wait till something happens?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and just for the people that are watching, so she's got coaching. Can you explain a little bit? Because I've done like the 7 day challenge. It was amazing. Like you got like a crew together, and like the spirit, the energy, the community is amazing. And can you take like 1 or 2 minutes just to explain what you're doing for
Yeah,
people that are
thank you.
listening?
Thank you. Yeah, so I have my triathletes, my clients that are sort of they want that 2%, right? They're doing Ironman and they're, some of them are the best in the world or they're really just incredible endurance athletes and getting that 2% can be really hard. But my biggest calling and my love and passion is helping everyday people. And you're not
Mhm.
really in that category, Jonathan, because you're kind of at a different fitness level already to them. But these are people that are like 40 to 60-year-olds and they either haven't exercised for a long time or they have some sort of chronic illness or they see their family having it and they don't want it. Don't want to go down that path. They want to reduce that chance of happening and they want to feel better. So it's this amazing
Mm.
community and it's called the Siri and Bek Squad. And we do 15 to 20-minute workouts every single day. Siri and I coach them via video, pre-recorded videos, and they get their live chat with us each week and a live workout with us every week. And they literally get it through an app. Boom, you get it on your phone, and it's a 15 to
Mm.
20-minute workout with us. And it's an amazing community. And I've even been shocked at the results because I'm so used to coaching like elite athletes or even just,
Mhm.
really fit endurance athletes that it's sort of hard to get that improvement. We've had people going
Yeah, you don't
from
see the result. Like you
no,
see the result maybe in the like the distance they're in their sports, but physically you don't see like as much as a 65 years old woman who like
yeah,
lost 20 pounds and get
yeah,
vitality
100 pounds.
and everything.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's exactly what we have. Karen Peterson, she actually tells us that we saved her life, and I say, you saved her life. She's
Yeah, she
65
saved
years old.
her.
She started with us when we were on Melissa Etheridge's show, and we had this free fitness Kickstarter like you did, and she hadn't worked out for many, many years, and she said she was suicidal that night, decided that was it.
Oh,
She's okay with us talking about this. That was it. She was done. She was ending her life. And we came on and she said, that can't be real. They can't have that much energy. There's got to be something wrong with them. And she started and she's now 60. Well, she was 64 then. She's 67. She is qualified for national cycling time trial.
oh
She
wow.
ran a marathon
Oh wow.
and she's lost 100 pounds. And that's just one of many stories we have.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. People
Yeah.
getting off their high blood pressure meds, off their anti-anxieties and depression tablets, off their lowering their cholesterol, like losing body fat, feeling better. Like it's
Yeah.
unreal. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
So So it's Siri Beck Squad, right?
Siri and Beck
Uh,
squad. Yep, Siri
and
and Beck squad.
I'll put in the description below basically like all your info after. And
Cool.
but that's amazing. I've done like they have like a 7 day
Fitness
like
Kickstarter. Yeah.
yeah
Anyone who wants to do
Kickstarter.
that, I'll throw that in for free. They can just do it. I can give you a link. They can just join us for 7 free
Amazing. Yeah.
workouts. Yeah.
I mean, let's do that. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be. I enjoy doing it. So
Awesome.
all right. So let's go back. So basically, so on the strength training. So how can we measure progress? Would you say, like over time?
I love going by feel, and even though I have like exercise science background where we measure everything, I love metrics
Mm,
and data too. But I'm not really a data driven coach. And for people that I take care of, it kind of like they're a little turned off by that most of the time. It scares them. They're like, oh, I don't want to measure power or numbers, or they just go by feel. And I think it's a great way to do that, to listen to your body, and you just know, like, by how much more weight you're lifting, how much better you feel. We really don't measure it per se, unless they're in the gym and they're lifting more or they're doing more reps, and
mm,
it's more really how you feel. Like, can I do a squat now and squat down and do my laces without my back hurting? Can I, and it sounds crazy but it's true, like, can I stand on one leg while I do my shoelace up? That's also helps your cognitive health.
mm.
Standing on one leg actually has been proven to help with,
Yeah.
reduce of dementia and Alzheimer's and cognitive decline. So there's so many things with mobility, stability, as well as strength, that just is so good for overall health. So it's more how they feel.
But
Um,
I disagree with you. I mean, to be honest, like I mean, feeling is good, and I actually I agree about feeling. It's really important. But I feel that for example, like I was reading online and like the grip testing. Like
yep.
there's a lot of studies that says when you do the grip test, it gives you a value, and you can see on the chart where you stand.
Mm,
So I feel like
do
when you
that.
do that, if you do that like every 6 months, every year, or every not every day, but at least you can know like are you improving over time or you're not,
Yeah,
and
I feel
I
like
think
you just know. Like, if you know your
you
body,
just
you
know.
just know. You don't need to do a grip test to
Okay.
prove that. But we have, there's stuff like,
So you did, so when you race, I mean, when you were like working to be a champion, you were going by feeling?
yep, yep,
Okay. Damn.
yeah. Hmm.
Wow,
Yeah.
really? Okay,
You
that's
know what?
amazing.
It's
Okay.
it's a great, no, it's
Like,
honestly, and that doesn't mean that my way's right.
okay,
Siri,
but tell me more. I want to understand that
yeah,
because me,
no, I
I'm a
love this.
KPI number,
And this is
you
hard
know?
for me because I'm exercise science. I'm VO2 testing. I'm what's your lactate
Yeah.
threshold? What's your RMR? What's your VO2? What's your FTP? I know all that. I love it. And some of my athletes are like, I want to work on FTP. I want to work on my numbers. I need to know
Yeah.
my power. I want to know my heart rate. I'm like, okay, we can work like that. I don't love it, but I'll do it. Siri
Mm.
literally would get our Garmin and smash it. Like, she would not let us use it.
Mm.
And then there's coaches that are the opposite. I think now the sport in triathlon is getting so micro detailed with like aerodynamics and all of this. It is definitely going towards data more, a lot more. But we only looked at, I mean, I would know because I'd be on the treadmill and I'm like, now I can hold 11 miles an hour from my efforts where I could only hold 10.7. Like, that's how I would measure, by the speed on the treadmill or the speed on my runs. But on the bike, like, we didn't even have power. Like, it was by
Mm.
feel and cadence. We would measure cadence. So we were
What do
using
you mean?
metrics.
So what do you mean cadence? Like,
Cadence is like revolutions per minute. That was what we would
okay.
focus on, just revolutions per minute. And funny story, series athlete Marinda Carfrae, 4-time world champion, and Training Peaks, who is all data driven, right? All metrics. They came up to Siri and Marinda when she won their fourth world championship, and they said, how did you do it? What were your power numbers? What did you look at? Like, we want to know what your FTP was. Like, what was it? And Rennie's like,
Mm.
I wasn't looking at it. I didn't have my heart rate, nothing. And they're like, but it was
Mm.
perfect. We saw the metrics because she turned it off, but she looked at cadence, which is revolutions per minute.
Mm.
And they said, how did we use so level the whole way? Like, how was everything? And she said, feel, get to learn to see your body. That takes time, though. Like, that takes time, like, to develop that feeling and to know. I would know
Mm.
exactly what my heart rate is, exactly what my power numbers were. I didn't even have to look at them. I just knew it. I think these days now it's definitely, as elite athletes, it's much more power driven, but Siri's still coached like that. She won 2 world championships, 13 world titles, and she never use number powers or heart rate. Brett Sutton, best coach in the entire world for endurance sports, is very against data and metrics. He's all by feel. Because he's like, how is looking at your power if you're going as hard as you can? How is that going to help? Than to you
Yeah.
to go, oh no, I'm only doing 260 watts. I need to be doing 270. But you're going as hard as you can. You're like, how is staring at that going to make you go any harder if you're maxed out? Like, so he was, yeah, we're really kind of like,
Yeah.
it was hard for me to adjust because I'm a
Mm.
data person. It was really a struggle. So some of my guys, I'm like, let's do an FTP test. Let's get your heart rate max. Let's work on this. And some guys love that, mostly the men. But a lot of the time,
Mm.
especially with Siri, with what has she had? 14 world titles, 2 Olympic medals, and herself a 2-time world champion, never really used data. And I got angry with her because I was like, I just want to know what numbers I'm doing. And it worked though. I won multiple races with her. And she obviously knows what she's
Okay.
doing. Yeah. But there's a time and place. Different
So,
coaches.
how do I know that I'm on the right track for, like to be strong at 80, at 90, at 100? Like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, so if I'm able to do like six, like right now, at my peak, I was able to do like 55 push-up, like
That's
without stopping.
exactly what I got.
But,
I could not
but
do that
now,
now.
now I'm at 43.
Yeah,
So
I'm
in
like
my
10.
mind, huh?
I'm
10?
like 10 now. I'm terrible. Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's just like the fact that I know that 55 was my number. Now I'm older and
Yeah.
I'm at 43. I'm like, okay, so like I need I have a number that I need to reach, So when I will reach 60 or 50, then I'll be okay. I'm on the right track,
How long ago was it when you did, like, how many years ago?
Maybe 2 years ago, but
Yeah.
I was doing push up every day,
Yeah.
like crazy,
And
like
how old are
like
you?
well.
How old are you now?
So I'm 37. I was
Okay.
35.
So I think you could totally get to that. I think,
Yeah, I can. Of course. I need
yeah.
to work out more, and
But
I need to, you know.
yeah. But for me, see, sometimes it can be depressing, but I go back and I think, oh my God, I was holding 10 miles an hour for a half marathon. 16 kilometers an hour was
Hmm.
easy for me. When I ran off
Hmm.
the bike, I'd run like a 120 half marathon. Now I can maybe do it for 3 minutes. Like I can't compare that
Hmm.
because that's not good. And I know I don't have the fitness I had, but as you get older, obviously your body is not going to let you to do what you used to do. But for you at your age, being young, I think it sort of depends on the age, and you really can't compare when you're 40, 50 to what you're doing when
Oh,
you're 20 or 30.
there's a chart, like if you follow the chart, it's like the grit test, like if you're 60, obviously you will not have the same
Yeah.
power than at 30,
Mm.
but at least you have like a reference point.
Yeah.
So
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 for,
I kind of agree. I agree with you. Like the day to day, like if I'm doing the exercise, like go by feeling.
yeah.
But I think I mean, in my mind, how do you know if you're on track or not if you don't like,
No,
you
you
know?
do. My guys do
I
because
don't know.
they'll use like equipment. Say the Peloton has numbers on it, right? So you can
Mm.
see on there when you're getting stronger. They
Sure.
know because we'll do like a mile test. Like say they've, especially when they've just started, we'll do a 1 mile. How long did it take you to do a mile? Or it took me, 20 minutes. And then a month later, they did it in 12. It's like, wow. And then it
Hmm.
gets less and less and less as they get fitter. It's harder as you
Hmm.
get fitter to get better. It's a lot harder. The fitter you
Sure.
are, the
Of course.
harder it is. And then they'll do
Exactly.
stuff like, oh, I could only do a wall squat hold for 30 seconds and my quads were completely fatigued. Now I can do it for 5 minutes. And it doesn't take
Hmm.
long to see that progress. And they see it like, oh, one lady delivers post and she's like, I used to walk up the stairs at the post office and finish my shift and my legs would just be cramping, and now she's like, oh, I just do like 20 miles a day and I'm not even tired. So that's how
Hmm.
they sort of gauge, but everyone's different. Like if someone like you, and I have athletes like that, and even people in our squad like that, where they just decide, oh, I'm going to measure this myself, and they have different ways of measuring it. But most of the core people that I work with aren't really data driven. Thank God my
Hmm.
athletes are, but these Siri and Beck squad, not really. So
Yeah.
they just more go by
Yeah.
feel. Yeah, but there's definitely a
Yeah.
time and a place. My athletes, if I told them go by feel, they'd be like, no, I want data. So yeah,
But I think it's reassuring. It's reassuring for everyone that
yeah,
you don't need to get crazy. I got to whoop. To get crazy with all the numbers. Like
yeah,
if you that's not important. What's important is to follow yourself.
yeah,
And if you feel you can do two more rep,
Yeah.
you're the only one doing it, like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like yesterday I was running, and to be honest, I really thought about you, and I thought about the challenge. I was like, Jonathan, you're just jogging, like go faster.
Yep.
I was like, okay, and then I just like boost up my tempo, and so it just like sometime, like go, like as you said, go to the fatigue. So I think that's a great reminder, like if you have
Yep.
more energy in the tank, just go
Yep.
go more,
Yep. Yep, and it's all,
Nice.
and that's why I think we call it RPE,
Mm.
rate of perceived effort, or rate of perceived exertion,
Yeah.
is mostly how we work. Because heart rate for everyone can be different. Like I could say work at
Mhm.
70% of your max heart rate. Some people don't even know what that means, and some people have never had a VO2 test or a heart rate test. So your Garmin or
Mhm.
your data watch is not really accurate unless you've had a proper VO2 test. It just guesses based on your age and weight and
Sure.
height and all that. So it's not that relevant. And often your data, your metrics, like your data watch, like if you just have say an Apple Watch is pretty good, and the Aura Ring is very accurate. But most other watches, like a Garmin without a chest strap, heart rate,
Mhm.
when it's measuring heart rate, it's really inaccurate.
Not
The
that
power
good.
lines, EMFs, like your
Mhm.
steps, cadence can interfere. They think it's a beat, and often it's really inaccurate. So
Mhm.
that's where you've got to be careful too. Mm.
Mhm. Good. So, okay, amazing. I like that. I like that to challenge some
Yeah.
different files. So question five, basically, it's like I just wanted to know, like, do you have any other thing you would like to share on strength training? Do you have real life experience to emphasize the importance of it for our audience?
I think just injury prevention,
Mm.
and again muscle
Yeah.
loss, bone density, but injury prevention and yeah, and loss of muscle, I think is just so important. And making sure you have like really good technique if you're going to do it. That's why I try to stick to compound movements and mobility. We'll talk about that later, but mobility and
Mm.
stability has to be there
So-
before you start to try to lift even heavier as well. You have to have that functional, stability, mobility as well.
Yeah. So when you say compound movement, what do you mean?
So compound is like a chest press, a leg press, like a compound. I don't know what you call it in
But I mean,
French.
like, what's the opposite? Like, let's say when you
Um,
isolate, like when you do like one exercise for one muscle instead of,
yeah,
is that
pretty much.
compound is
Yeah,
multiple muscle basically?
yeah, pretty much. Yep, and it's
Sure.
safe. Like a leg press is pretty safe, but then if you well, you actually yeah, not necessarily, because then a leg press is like a compound movement. But if you had like a barbell, right,
Hmm.
and you're doing that, that's not really a compound movement because you're relying on your body to support your weight, whereas the leg press you're kind of relying on the machine. That's how I've always believed it anyway. I'm not sure
Sure.
if that's
Sure.
100% accurate, but it's safer to do compound movements when you're older. You as
Mm-hmm.
young one could get away with doing a lot different, but for
Hmm.
my guys I would say like safety's first. So I don't love the idea of them doing a barbell squat because they
Hmm.
probably don't have the stability that someone in their 30s has.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, full
Nice.
movement. Mm.
Amazing. So yeah, to reduce injury. So that's so important. And how do you make sure when you do your strength training that you don't get injured? I
Mm.
mean, what's
Good,
your,
good.
you have
Well,
any
good
tips on
technique. Yeah, I think really good technique. And just knowing what you're doing, having a coach show you the movement first. I
that?
actually have videos, then I show them how to do the exercise with like proper technique. Even my wife, Siri, I'm like, arch your back. What are you doing? And I
Yeah.
correct her technique because she never did. I was actually a strength conditioning coach too when I was a personal trainer. When I was really young in the gym, I was a personal trainer, and we did a lot of the strength conditioning stuff. And movement and like the way you do the exercise is so important, because if you
Hmm.
have your back in the wrong position or your legs or your
Yeah.
knee collapsing, it's like disastrous and definitely
Yeah.
more injury prone. So I always get on
Yeah.
Siri. I'm like, Siri, what are you doing?
Yeah, so I think for everyone, like, go on YouTube if you don't have the financial resource. Otherwise, get a coach. I mean,
Yeah.
get someone, at least like a virtual coach. Or I found very very interesting to have. I have a coach coming in my. I have a home gym,
Oh,
so
cool.
every day. Sorry, every week. So
Love that.
I mean, just like every time, he's always like, your posture, like the way you do this movement and everything. So I feel like, I mean,
So
it's
important. Yeah,
So
that's why
important.
with the machines, when I say compound, it's just for safety. Like on the leg press, you're much less likely to hurt yourself than doing like a barbell squat. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. All right. So let's go to pillar number two,
Hmm.
cardio.
Oh, it's my
And
favorite.
woohoo!
You.
Um, so tell me more, like cardio with longevity. Like how does it contribute for long term
Yeah, I wrote a three
life?
notes here because I don't want to miss anything. But
Uh-huh.
um, it's funny because when we started the Siri and Beck squad, how it started was Melissa Etheridge had gotten back to touring after COVID, and she said, "I feel like I've lost so." I don't know if anybody knows Melissa Etheridge, but you should because she's a Grammy winner. And
Okay.
she's saying like, "Somebody bring me some water and." Some really cool. I think she's got 2 or 3 Grammys, and she's amazing. And so she said, "I want you to get my couch potatoes, my Etheridge Nation fans, off the couch. Like they're all depressed, and I want to get fit." We said, "Well, what are you doing?" And she said, "Well, we walk a
Nothing.
mile." Yeah, no, no. Well, you think about it though. Like with Tony, like the calories he's burning on stage, she has that energy. Like you see her in concert. She's 60 years old. She's
That's it.
freaking on the ground playing her guitar. Like she's the best. She's better than Eric Clapton, I reckon. She's amazing. Anyway, she's so fit on stage. So she has fitness from that, but she's never really worked really, really
Mm.
hard for a few years. So we said, like, I'm thinking in my head, endurance athlete, like, oh yeah, we'll give her an hour a day. We'll do intervals and threshold and strength work. And Siri's like, how much time do you have? And she's like, like 20 minutes. And we're like, okay. So we just do like basically bang for your buck workouts, like hits. So
Mhm.
Siri started coaching her. And she's like holding her notes longer with her harmonica. She's holding her notes longer on her songs, and she's like on the ground, being able to play her guitar and pop back up. I don't even think I could get up from the ground position that she's on the ground, like in a squat position, then lies down and just jumps back up at like 60.
Oh
And we were
wow.
like, holy crap, this really works. And of course we knew it worked, but we'd never really coached people. This was like 2020,
And
2019.
she was not like that before, or
She was, but I think it just helped her. It just
sure.
improved it. Like it definitely helped her. And so we're like, okay, so these 20 minutes, like if we think about all the sessions we've given our athletes and we've done over the last 25, well, it's 50 years combined, what would we give someone that only had 15 to 20 minutes? And people were already
Hmm.
talking about hits, and we're like, this is cool. So we designed like all these workouts with someone that
Hmm.
just had limited time. And cardio, I feel like for me is the most important because your heart and
Hmm.
lungs is what keeps you alive.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think the more beats you have in your heart, the longer you're going to live. And there's not
Mm.
enough emphasis put on that. Your heart and lungs is everything. And hits now, there's so many studies, like PubMed studies coming up and meta studies, meta analysis of high intensity intervals, and just how incredible they are for not just heart and lungs, like reducing chronic illness, diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's, dementia, your cognitive,
Mm.
like reducing your cognitive decline. There's just so many studies coming out now. You see it all the time. And I'm like, you're preaching, but that's what we designed it, and we didn't really think about the other longevity health benefits. We were more
Mm.
thinking about heart and lungs, and now we've started to
Hmm.
realize this is everything, and you only need
Yeah.
15 to 20 minutes a day. I recommend if you have time to do your longer aerobic stuff as well. You can do 1 or 2 hour hike or walk, or if you're a runner, really slow run, but I think you can get the most out of your bang for your buck in just 15 to 20 minutes a day.
Mm. So, s- is there a difference between cardio and hit? Like cardio, in my mind, it's like okay, I'm gonna run for 30 minutes, like at a normal pace, and hit, it's like super intense workout.
Yeah,
Would both do the same thing,
hits
or
is a
what's the
form
difference?
of cardio. Yeah, hits is a form of cardio. There's so many different forms of cardio. There's like
Sure.
your easy aerobic cardio, which means with oxygen. So that's the stuff where you can go
Mm.
really long and slow. And that's important definitely for endurance athletes, but it's also important, I mean, for your mental health. If you want to get out in nature and just enjoy being out for a long walk or a long hike or a long run, depending on your fitness level. So cardio, there's threshold work you can do with is a form of cardio. Threshold is like, really like hard, sort of longer intervals, 3 minute intervals. Then there's
Mhm.
cardio is there's even strength that's form of cardio, which is like big gear work, strength grinding on the bike or hill work on the run. And there's what else? Then there's anaerobic work is a form of cardio as well. So there's all different, and we combine all of that. We do anaerobics, we do threshold work, we do
Mm.
mostly hits, which is a form of interval training.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the long stuff, you still want to try to get in your long aerobic work, but we're trying it for longevity. Like it's more important, I think, to do that intensity if you do it properly, and it doesn't matter what exercise you're doing because your heart and lungs don't
Mm.
know what exercise you're doing. You
Yeah.
don't have to
Yeah.
sprint. You can do bike, or it's just important that you get your heart rate
Mhm.
up and down.
But would you say, like, I love running, like for me, like it's like a like meditation,
Therapeutic,
so
yeah.
but when I do hit, I cannot meditate, it's like super intense. So I mean, I have the tendency to be, I maybe lazy, but I like to run. So I mean, would you say that in terms of my longevity goal, if I only run 3 times a week, 30 minutes, I'm kind of missing on something, not doing like the high intensity?
You
Or you think I'm good, I can still do that and I'll be thriving at 100 years old?
I
I
would
mean,
say, yeah, so it's like hormosis, right? You want to microdose your heart and lungs with a little bit of like high intensity. If you're just steady state exercise, if you just go out and run, even if you're running for 30 minutes at like a high
mhm.
level, it's really not a hit. Like you're not getting those
No,
microdoses of like
no,
high
no, no.
intensity heart rate. It's
No,
not
I'm
like,
like cruising, like,
yeah, so I would say you're missing out for sure,
mm,
and I think you want to add a variety. Like it's definitely a time and place to do that because, and it's
yeah.
therapeutic getting out in nature. I always try to have my guys go and do an easy aerobic day at least once or twice a week as well, where they're just steady state exercise is kind of what it's called,
Mm,
like or
mhm,
aerobic exercise, but your fitness, I can guarantee you, if I did a fitness test with you right now, because again, I do love numbers. If I did a fitness test with you
yeah,
on the treadmill, we were like, and I have a specific routine I use for it on the treadmill.
sure.
And then I said, let's do it now. Give me 3 months with you
Yeah,
to get that better. Your fitness, because you're at
I'm
that,
sure.
it's gonna be, yeah.
I'm sure. I mean, just to do the 7-day Kickstarter, like your test, I was like, oh shit, like it was. So, but you know what? I love is like it was structure, and it's just like right now because I have no coach for running, like I can just go for a run and that's it. I don't think about okay, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes, or
Right, right.
So I feel having a coach is like really important, and so can you talk to me like about VO2 max? I
Mhm.
mean, is this like it's not everyone that knows that term, and I would like just you to. So,
So,
what
in
is it?
layman's terms, it's basically the maximum amount of oxygen your body can use. And when you're using oxygen to a point where it then becomes without oxygen and anaerobic, which doesn't take that long because it's probably 3 minutes. Well, you build up to it, but it's basically
Mm,
VO2 is where there's no more oxygen left to be used by the muscles. And you can't hold that for very long. But the higher your anaerobic threshold is, or your aerobic threshold either is to your VO2, the fitter you are. So for me, endurance,
mhm,
obviously I'm working aerobically, but you start producing lactic acid, and that's what slows you
mhm,
down, and that's when you start becoming anaerobic. So the lactic acid production, and it's beneficial. Endurance athletes are very good at recycling lactic acid. That was what made me really good at sport. Was I went to the Institute of Sport and I was doing these lactate testing, and they're measuring lactate, and they're like, Rebecca, you got to go harder, you got to go harder. And I was like, it's like 8 millimole. And I'm like, ah, and these people are like 12, 15. And then lo and behold, a few years later, they came out and they said, well, we thought lactic acid, which was the product, what technically was a waste product of anaerobic exercise, it's now considered a byproduct and you can recycle it. So my body already, because I did cross country at school and was just always an aerobic
mhm,
queen,
mhm,
I was recycling the lactic acid and I just couldn't get the numbers. And so for me,
mhm.
that was why I think naturally I'm very blessed to have good
Yeah.
genetics, but it's a really good test. Your VO2, it isn't everything. My VO2 is shit. Like it was like 68, and some of the girls that I'm racing were 80, 84. That's
Okay.
huge.
So it's not linked
No.
with your like you're a champion if your VO2 max is the highest. No.
It's part of it, but
It's
I think for
important.
endurance sports, not so much. Well, it's hard because you can't measure pain, right? Like you can't like have something
Yeah.
on, you probably can now, but you can't really measure how much you can suffer. And I was good at suffering. And Lance Armstrong, he's a freak. Yeah, yes, maybe he doped. They all bloody doped. I'm not
Yeah.
advocating for it at all, but I think if they were all clean and Lance Armstrong was clean, he still would have won.
Mhm,
His VO2 was insane. Like it
mhm,
was like God, I don't know, like nearly 90 or something. Like it's like, and that is a genetic advantage. That's why he was so damn
Hmm.
good. Yes, he did the training and he was a natural, but that would definitely help, I think. But you also can't measure like how much pain someone can suffer, and I think that's yeah. So for
Yeah,
me, it wasn't that important. Yeah.
to be a champion is like it's a combination of a lot of
So
stuff.
many
You know?
things, yeah. And
So you
you can
cannot play
improve your
hard.
VO2 a lot though.
Hmm.
Like I could definitely help you as you're younger.
Hmm.
It's easier.
Yeah.
Then there's people like David Mimmer and Scott. Like I helped him with his VO2, and his VO2 is like in the 60s at his age, which is insane. But like I
Hmm.
helped train him to understand like how we could do that, and we did it. And
Sure.
it's genetic. Like some people just naturally have a lower VO2, and
Mhm.
yeah,
But I'm sure. So because I read article on that, linked like VO2 max is like in correlation with longevity.
yeah,
Higher the number, more
pretty
chance you have
much.
to live longer.
Yeah, and you can
And
increase that. The best way to do that, like the HIIT sessions, increases your VO2. So does long
Mhm.
aerobic stuff, but high intensity and then like max efforts with lots of rest. Like I've got so many sessions in my head I could rattle off, but
Ah,
they can really lift your VO2. There's ways to biohack that, and I love biohacking, so I'm like, let's just do this and we'll get your VO2 up. So I'm all for
yeah.
that.
Nice. So what would be the frequency, for cardio and hit? What would you recommend?
We try to recommend cardio every day.
Every day? Oh wow.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's only, well, it depends on what your goals are. If you're an endurance athlete, you're doing triathlon, obviously you have to do cardio every day. You get to do hours of it. But for longevity and for my everyday people, I still recommend 15 to 20 minutes at least, or an easy
Mhm.
walk. Like for someone is it's in their 50s, 60s, an easy walk, but definitely include the hits. Like our program, for example, is Mondays usually high intensity. Tuesdays usually strength program, sometimes strength with cardio. So we'll do like a squat jump. Your heart rate's going to come up, right? Doing a squat jump rather than a squat. So we mix up cardio in between the strength, depending
Okay.
on that. And then the next day might be hits again. Because remember, it's only 15 to 20 minutes. You only cause a microdose of inflammation, and it doesn't cause fatigue doing 20 minutes of, unless you're really unfit. Most people, even just 15, 20 minutes is not going to kill you. You're going to recover really quick. You're going to recover within a few hours, really,
Mhm.
unless you've got some sort of underlying issue. But, and then we do
Mhm.
strength again, like what we do hits, strength, um, some sort of sometimes like aerobic with like we call it like up tempo, like it might be like fart, like which is like 15 seconds strong, 45 easy. It's not flat out, it's not like hits.
Mhm.
Then the next day would be probably strength again, and then the next day hits, and then the next day long aerobic. We do a long aerobic day, usually Saturday, and then Sunday is your gratitude day where you go out and do a walk or a hike or a yoga or a Pilates or a mobility, stuff like that.
Okay. Okay, so I mean, if we structure it in the different pillar, it's more like you do in your mind two strength training,
Mm-hmm.
five,
Cardio,
cardio,
4 to 5, yeah.
like but you need to move every day.
Yep.
Like that's your philosophy basically, and it makes so much sense. I mean, our body is made for,
Yeah.
not to be sitting on a computer.
Yeah, exactly.
Got a tough question. So, what do you think about triathlon? That's you got the day to day life, and you got like the super athlete. I mean, in my mind, that take a toll on the body. Like,
Mhm.
is this
Ironman,
good
yeah.
for? Is
No.
Ironman? Is this really good for longevity? Like,
No, it's not. It's really
it's
not.
not. Huh?
My triathletes will kill me, but I mean, it's so extreme. Like, it's such a long sport. I mean, people are out there from 8 to 16 hours. That's
Yeah.
not healthy. Like, I'm sorry. I love the sport. Like, I'm a little scared. I'm like, is my heart going to be like your heart is a muscle? It gets bruised. And they
Yeah.
did studies on Ironman athletes, elite or age group, whether you're taking 8 or 16 hours, your heart can be bruised for up to 2 months. That is not healthy.
Hmm.
And so I get so angry with my athletes, even younger or older, depending, whatever age, where they do an Ironman. They're like, I'm going to do like 3 a year. I'm like, no, you're not. It's not healthy. Like, I even myself, 2 a year for me of 8 to 9 hours of hardcore racing, like that was enough for me. I was like, the short one, the 3 to 4 hour, not so bad, but like like it's like a fine line. That's why after 25 years of it, I was like, I'm done. Like I want to live long. I don't want to have
Yeah.
a pacemaker
Mhm. Mhm.
when I'm
So
60. Yeah.
yeah, so that's the so I mean, let's say in your mind experience or studies or in your knowledge, like what would be like the like the distance? Is it like a
Mm,
distance or a time? Let's say running. Would you say
yeah.
at 5K
That's
it's perfect, then 10K it's okay, but then more than 10K or like I mean, should we aim to do like a marathon per year, or we should like
yeah.
if we're only thinking about longevity,
Yeah.
not about achievement,
Hmm.
but just like
I
what's
was,
the
yeah, I would recommend like for my athletes, it's like I try to say one Ironman, maximum two a year, and they got to be really spaced out. I've got like a 23-year-old that's already doing two a year, and I'm so upset with him. I'm like,
what's his name?
Jackie Sutton,
Yeah, I
Jackie,
know Jackie. That's
and
why
I'm
I
kind of,
wanted
and
to.
then he's
So, but Jackie was a good example. So Jackie, by the way, is someone we I met also during the Tony Robbins event. But he was walking like that, and I was like, Jackie, I mean, how's your leg? He's like, how do you know that? I'm like, dude,
and he
I
hadn't
mean,
even
you're a
told
walk.
me. He was hiding it from me, so you noticed that, and I didn't, which is bad. But
And but I'm like, I mean, what do you think about the long term use? And then that's the trap. I think that sometimes you can, and
yeah,
it's but even doing one, I have the mindset that even if I like, let's say for example, like I'm like, oh, I would love to have a challenge,
yeah,
like to have a race or something, so I have something to train for,
yeah,
because sometimes like you think about, oh, okay, I want to live to 100,
yeah,
it's so far away that you know, so it's kind of nice to have like some short term pressure.
yeah.
But even that, I'm like, is it really, is it a good idea to do such a big event per year, or
I
or
feel
should I
like
aim for a 5K run, or like I don't know.
yeah,
So
it depends on the age and it depends on, the individual because Jackie's dad is 60, I always get it wrong, 64, I think. And I say to him, Morris, like we can't you can't be doing Ironman anymore. It's not good for your body. And there's a lot of guys at his age that do it, but everybody else does it. I said, you have five kids, you work 100 hours a week, and you're trying to fit in the training, and then you want to go and just do this race, like, and then he gets injured so much because injuries
mm,
as you go above 40, 45, like I
yeah,
was like, let's think about longevity. So I finally convinced him to do just half Ironman and like
mhm.
some more like shorter workouts. But I feel like it takes a toll. I think one a year I would say is safer. I don't think any more than that. And it all depends on the age. I feel like after 45, you got to start being really more careful and thinking about longevity. I don't think Ironman is something that is necessarily going to be helping your longevity if you're doing it after the age of 45, 50. I think especially for injuries as well, not just heart and
But
lungs, but
no,
injuries. Yeah.
now we talk about Ironman, but let's like let's say if I do a marathon per year, would
Yeah.
you feel like to do a marathon is still
It's
dangerous for my long term longevity, or
one
if
per
I can
year, not so
tell,
much. It's for like to say you do 4 hours, like I don't think that's definitely not going to take the effect of doing like an 8 to 16 hour Ironman.
sure,
Um,
for sure.
and yeah, and you won't have to do as much training because for Ironman, I want my athletes to do well. So they have to
Mhm.
have time to do a 5 to 6 hour bike ride and a 2 to 3 hour run. And that's where with training, like when you're running, say for a marathon, Siri and I are really big fans, and so is our coach, who's the best in the world as well, in the men, a male. So Siri's, I believe, the best female coach in endurance sports, triathlon, and he was the best male coach and still is. We never ran over 2.5 hours because you start to
Mhm.
have that. It's a fine line between the damage you start to do, the injury chance, the recovery. No matter what age or what fitness level, it starts to decline after about 2.5 hours. Even you have to be a conditioned athlete to do that, but we would never
Sure.
go past 2.5 max in training running
Okay.
because that compound effect and all that
Mm.
risk of injury. So,
So basically, like let's say if it would be more like let's do 2 hour and then try to do as much distance as possible in that 2 hour and
yeah,
improve that over
more on
time.
time. And then obviously we'd get our endurance, which is non weight bearing on the bike. So, a lot of our endurance
Hmm.
would come from 5 to 6 hour bike rides rather than
Hmm.
3 to 4 hour runs. Like, we would never run a marathon in training ever. I did one marathon fresh and it wasn't even as fast as I ran off the bike. Like,
Mm.
so we wouldn't recommend doing marathons. People sometimes mentally are like, I need to run the distance in training so I know I can do it. Well, I said, well, mentally, if you need to do it, just know that you need 2 months to recover from that 3 hour run or
Yeah.
4 hour run. So let's work on getting your endurance on the bike where it's less chance of injury, or a brick bike run instead
Hmm.
of trying to run 4 hours in training, because the fatigue levels and the risk of injury is just so high for running
Sure.
people. Yeah.
Sure. Sure. Nice. And my question 4 on cardio was like, how do you track your cardio? But I guess you go by feeling, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a little easier to track than strength, I think. Depending,
Hmm.
and again, like as an elite, as like an endurance athlete, say for my triathletes, we do like Siri's going to be like, don't say that. We do like FTP tests, like we do, and I would do
I
that with
don't
you because
know.
I can
So
tell you'd
what is
love
it?
it. Oh,
I don't know what's a FTP test.
functional threshold power. So
Okay.
it's basically your watts per kilo. Your functional threshold power is measured in watts per kilo. So how many watts, how much you can push per kilo of body weight. So
Mm.
for me as an elite athlete, and it's even higher now, the girls that are doing this, there we would sit at about 4.5 watts per kilo of body weight per hour. So we were pushing for, I'm 60 kilos, I would push 6 times 4, say for easy time's sake, 240 watts. I would work on holding 240 watts would be my threshold, my functional threshold power. It's
Sure.
basically a 20-minute test. And I
Mm.
used to mostly do it on the bike. You can do it on the run, but it wouldn't be measured in speed. But you basically hold as much as you can effort wise, speed wise on the
Mm.
bike. And usually a stationary bike, well, it has to be a stationary bike pretty much because there's too much outside influence. But how much you can hold for 20 minutes. So for you, I'd get you on the bike and you'd use the same bike every time because they can all be different, and you would do 20 minutes as hard as you can. It sounds awful. It is awful. It's the most awful test. It's so hard. And you would just go as
Ah.
hard as you can for 20 minutes. And then we'd measure your
Mm.
power. Say your power was, let's say, 240, you hold 240 watts. You were say you're 60 kilos, you'd hold 4 watts per kilo. So that's a really good way to measure. And I still do that with my guys because a lot of my guys want to know, like, that they are improving with my elite athletes and my athletes, my endurance athletes. In the pool, it would be like 1,000 time trial. Swim a
Mm.
1,000 meters or 2,000 meters as hard as you can and for time. And then on the run, it would be depending on what we do. Usually we'd do like a half mile set, but sometimes it might just be 5K as hard as you can go. And we
Hmm.
would measure it all the time. And I love that. Like I want to do that more with our squad, but that's kind of, they've got a different mindset.
Hmm.
They most of them don't love the data and don't love to measure all the
Hmm.
time, but athletes love it. So we do that
Yeah,
a
I
lot.
think it's like, you have different hats, like I mean, there's people like me. I always tell myself, okay, I'm an athlete, I'm doing that incantation,
Yeah.
and I'm not an athlete, but it's just like
You are.
I am,
You are an
I
athlete.
am for
You
sure,
are an
so,
athlete.
but,
Yeah.
and I want to be a longevity athlete. So
Yeah.
that's my long-term view. So,
Yeah.
oh, that's nice. So, and do you have any other real life experience or other advice you would like to share on cardio?
I just think it's so important as we get older for
Hmm.
not just cognitive health, but like reducing chronic illness, cancer,
Hmm.
reducing
Hmm.
inflammation, reducing like getting detoxifying your body. Like there's so many benefits, and it doesn't. And you have to sweat. You should sweat because that helps detoxify too. But it doesn't
Hmm.
have to be hard, and it does. You don't really need equipment. You can do most of this stuff without any equipment.
Hmm.
But you do have to be able to push yourself. You have to be able to constantly push to a new level. And as you get fitter, you got to keep pushing. So that's why it feels
Hmm.
so important, because
Hmm.
as you get fitter, the numbers, like speed's going to go up, your power's going to go up, your weight may
Yeah.
go down. So then power to weight's important too when it comes to athletes. But you have to still know how to push to a 9 out of 10. So I say a 9 out of 10 for me, speed wise, is
Hmm.
very different to even a 9 out of 10 for Siri. So
Hmm.
that's why we use RPE a lot with our everyday
Hmm.
athletes, our Siri and Bek squad, because that's the way they measure is effort
Hmm.
level. So
Hmm.
listen to your
Hmm.
body is my tip. Listen to
Yeah.
your body and don't kid yourself, right? Yeah.
I like it. I like it. And good. So pillar number 3. So balance, flexibility, mobility. So what's your, can you explain me the difference between all of them and how crucial is it for longevity?
Yeah, so important for injury prevention. And as we age,
Hmm.
like in my 30s, I didn't care all about it. Like I was just like, I don't need to do this. This is just natural for me. And most people think like that. But as you get older, they say there's a
Hmm.
new test actually, Jonathan. I want to send you the study. I saw it on TV and it's crazy. It's like, I think, I can't remember the ages, but I know you could probably do this for 10 minutes, but standing on one leg, literally, if you can do it in your, I think it's above 60 or 70 for 10 seconds, you're
Yeah,
like in the top 10
but with the
percentile.
closed eye, you need to close your eyes, right?
That I don't
I
know. They
think.
didn't say that. I think at 80, it might be hard to close your eyes.
So I watch a podcast of Brian Johnson.
Yeah.
Do you know? You know.
I
So
know
and he
the
was
name. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, he's like he's really into biohacking and longevity. But I mean, he was explaining that was one of his tests. I
Mm.
mean, to check balance. You know, you close your eyes and one leg, and then you. I mean, he's got a chart. You know, and I think depending on your age, obviously the time should change.
Yep.
But
It's a really good indicator. And they also have shown many studies now that just standing on one leg, and I actually have my guys doing Superman. So we do this. I don't know if you can
mhm,
see. So we just, oh, you probably can't see, but like some of my guys can't even do this, but we actually do this, right?
mhm.
And then we do this. And I say it's called a Superman, and we come down, back up. And a lot of my guys can't even do that. Like they can't even do one, but that's also good for stability and strength. See, you're young, so yeah, you're good at it. Whoop. But see that, yeah, it's hard. It switches everything on. So it's not just
Mhm.
good for cognitive health. All you can feel all your little stabilizers working. And sometimes they're the
Mhm.
forgotten ones. So mobility and strength is so important. All this, you want your little stabilizers like your synergists, right? They're the little muscles that stabilize the glute med,
Mhm.
all the things that stabilize the big muscles. And if they're not working, and the one-legged stuff, balance stuff is so good for that. If they're not
Mhm.
working and firing, the big muscles aren't going to work well either. So we do a
Mhm.
lot of strength, stability, mobility. I didn't say that as part of our plan, but we do, like they add that as part of like 2 or 3 times a week when they can. And I do a lot of live workouts, and we do one-legged stuff. We do balancing. We do
Mhm.
stretching. We do mostly
Mhm.
dynamic stretching, which means you're moving through the movement, whereas static stretching is like holding still. When you're younger, you can get away with it, but as you get older, you're much more likely to get an injury if you do like a static stretch where you're just not warm and you stretch a calf and you're like, ow, pulled the
But
calf.
is there one that, because I noticed that you I don't recall when you said that, but I mean, is this better to do a static or dynamic, or
And
it doesn't matter, or
I think as you get older, the dynamic is a little better. It's more like
okay,
that's what mobility kind of is. So it's the
correct.
movement. It's like movement. And we work a lot with Erin Carson, the strength coach I talked about, on what's
Mm.
important. So you sort of have mobile. So certain parts of the body should be mobile and stable. So your knee obviously should be stable. Your ankle should be stable, and then there's parts that should be mobile, like your thoracic. Like you have to be able to move your thoracic. Like that should be a mobile
Mhm.
should be mobile. So we work a lot on, and people, a lot of my guys are 100 so we work a lot on thoracic mobility, which is foam rolling and movement.
Mhm.
Like this is a dynamic movement, and then leg swings, like even just doing like honestly stuff like this before they run, like doing
Mhm.
this sort of
Yeah.
stuff, and like the one-legged stuff to switch the glutes on, fire the glutes. That's more
Mhm.
static, like holding it, but I like doing that stretch. Like it helps your
Yeah.
shoulders, and then we do,
Yeah. And
you
just
know,
like.
like basic stuff like this to open up your back,
Mhm.
and then I love this one where you're bending over a chair and like loosening your thoracic, and then this is more static too, but like glutes like that, opening up that, and then hip flexors like this, really opening up the hips. Like
Mhm.
it's so much more important as you get older because your flexibility gets worse. Women, we don't have our collagen production, so we start getting, RSI, like wrist issues, shoulder,
Mhm.
frozen shoulder, Achilles tendon issues. So we're going to try to negate that as well, and doing a really good mobility before the exercise they do
Yeah.
helps them chance of them getting an injury. Let's get this chance of getting an injury. So
And so, when do you think, like, first, I mean, let's say if we look at about the rhythm of a week, would you say how often should we? I mean, should we stretch basically? So that's, I mean, is it stretching
It's a form of
about mobility
stretching,
or?
yeah. But I'd rather them do a movement than a static stretch. Like a stretch, like stretching your calf on a wall would be more static, but then doing like you could move, like you could do it on a step, like stretch down, then stand back up, stretch down. So it depends on like if you're more injury prone, but I like the movement stuff better than the holding.
Mm,
And then once you're warm and you've done the exercise, the static stretching, and this is just generalizing, but the static stretching could
but
come in after you've warmed up. After you've done the exercise and worked out, you could do more static because your muscles are warm. But I try to have them do the mobility, like even 5 minutes before they start running or walking or biking or whatever they're doing, just to reduce the
okay, so
chance of
before the exercise, you would recommend to do a 5 minute
mobility. Yep.
mobility before,
Yep.
then you do your workout. Then should you do it after also,
It'd be amazing
or
if you could. Yeah. I mean, ideally, in the perfect world,
like
yes.
in the perfect
Yes.
world you do it? Okay, and
Foam rolling. Foam rolling is so
yeah,
important.
yeah,
I
I
don't
got one. I mean, every morning I got my, I do static stretch and foam rolling,
perfect.
but I don't. When I work out, I do my gym, and I don't stretch before and after.
Oh,
I
you
do it
could get a
only in
lot
the
more.
morning.
Yeah. You should feel like you need to stretch. Like if you're going to that DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, where you have, so what happens is it's a microfibril tear. So your muscle will have like a microfibril tear in it. That's okay. It's not a real tear. But it is a tear, a
Yeah.
form of a tear. It's a microfibril tear. And then that's what the
Mm.
soreness is. It's actually microfibril tears in your muscle. You want that so it's stronger. But if you stretch it out, it will heal quicker. Like if you do a chest set
Mm.
and you're not sore to touch the next day, you ain't going hard enough, buddy. You got to push.
Sure.
Like I do push-ups to fatigue, and my pecs, and it's harder when you're younger and you're male and you've got testosterone, but my
Yeah.
pecs after doing fatigue, I'm like, oh my God. I used to walk around, they're like, why are you rubbing your boobs? I'm like, my pecs are sore. Yeah, but you want that. But
Okay.
stretching it out will help you recover quicker. Yeah,
But I love to do it in the morning. I wake up, it's kind of
I
opening
love it
my,
too.
starting my day.
Yeah.
And I will do it when I work out. And even when I go run, I just put my my air plug, and I go run. I never stretch before and after.
Well, you're young.
So
You can get away with it now. You're not going to
yeah,
get away
but
with
the
it when you're
goal,
50. Yeah.
sure, but the goal is to have the right habit now,
Mm.
and for
I would do upper, I would do some arm swings and some leg
mm,
swings, right? I would definitely do those, and then you want to hold like something and just literally swing your legs, because that gets
mm,
your hips and your ankle. Like this is so good. This one is just amazing. And you'll notice one leg will be tighter than the other. Like my left is nowhere near as bad. Like this, and you
mm.
feel let your ankle move too, and it's such a good exercise. It'll just reduce the chance of you getting like pulling anything. That's probably my favorite. Yeah.
Mm.
It feels
Good. I'm
good.
so
Like when you
glad that.
start running after doing it, you'll be like, oh, I feel like, yeah, I feel better.
Yeah, I mean, it's always. I mean, when you stretch, you feel so good
Yeah.
after. And so, would you say that people that do yoga are kind of stretching at the same time,
Yeah,
or?
they are. I hate yoga, but I should be doing it. I should absolutely be doing it. I hate it, but I should be doing it.
Same thing, it's just like I mean, it's pretty tough. I mean, my wife, she's great in yoga, and sometime I was trying to kind of do it with her, and I was like, whoa, okay, you're working. I mean, that's a workout too.
It
So,
is. Yeah, much respect.
mm,
Like I know I need to do it. I'd rather do stretching and mobility than yoga, but
mm. So okay, so you would say in a perfect world, before and after every training, so every day basically, you should
yeah.
stretch.
Yep.
So, and on how long? Like 1 minute or ten
Till
minutes,
it
20 minutes?
I kind of just do it till it feels warm, till there's no stiffness, which
Okay.
can take a long time as you get older, but just till there feels like, and with injury, with if you have like I call it like a little niggle or something stiff or sore, or like you got to listen to your body here. Like if you have it, like say for you said to me, "Oh Beck, I know you have me doing like intervals today. My calf's like a little tight." Like when you're younger, you're like, "I'm going to push through it," but you can't do that as you get older. If you have like a slightly tight calf muscle, for example,
Mm,
and then you go, "Oh, I'm going to just go out and run and see how it is." It's such a high chance that you're going to tear your calf. Like as you're younger, maybe not so much, but as you get older, you have to really listen to that. Like, what's my
Sure.
body telling me? Like, my calf's a little tight, my
Mm,
Achilles a bit sore.
mm,
Oh, I'm not going to run today. I think I'm going to get on the bike. And
mm,
you have to really listen to your body when it comes to that.
mm. Yeah, I love it. I love it. I think it's a great philosophy. I mean, we get so hooked in the marketing aspect of like the tracker and the KPI and the numbers, and then
Yeah.
the reality is that if we listen to our body, we got our own answer.
Yeah. 100%.
So
Yeah.
so that's so true. Thank you very much for bringing that up.
Of course.
So um, so for tracking our progress on flex, on mobility and balance, I mean, we talk about like the one leg test.
Yep.
Obviously, I mean, when you stretch, how far can you go? You
Yep.
you can feel it.
Yep.
Um,
Siri
is
cannot
there-
reach her toes, Jonathan. Siri cannot touch her toes. Her hamstrings are so tight.
mm,
They always have been. And some people just are less flexible. Like I can literally, I think I showed you, we did it together. I could touch the ground, like no
yeah, I
problem.
can
But
touch my palm.
yeah, me
Like
too. But and we're lucky. Like we're probably less prone to pulling our hamstring or doing something to our back. And Siri always hurts her back because she's just naturally so tight there. But yeah,
yeah.
you've got to like be focused on the areas that are the tightest and work through them. And like you said, you can do the tests like touching your toes, like stretching onto the ground, like opening up.
Hmm.
How far can you open up your thoracic? Like it's pretty
Hmm.
easy to measure. Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. But I think, the one leg test is a great test because, I
great
mean,
test.
I'm thinking about my grandmother or like, older people that I know. And I'm like, I can tell who I don't even want to ask them the test. I mean, it's just like, it's,
You can see
but
it.
some others, I would be curious,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's all
and,
relative. Yeah.
nice, amazing. So is there any other real life experience or any other thing you would like to share about mobility or balance?
Probably leans more towards recovery, but I think again, like as we age, just that there's less subtleness, I think you call it, less mobility and flexibility in our tendons and ligaments. So you'll see people getting frozen shoulder, Achilles injuries,
Hmm.
stuff like that, RSI, and that's aging, that can be arthritic, and these little microdoses of 15 to 20-minute workouts, they may cause slight inflammation, but they actually it's the best form of anti-inflammatory effect you can have.
Hmm.
Not to
Hmm.
mention the good feel endorphins, but it's one of the best
Yeah.
ways to reduce inflammation and arthritis is to actually move. Collagen
Mm.
supplements, obviously they help too, but I think people are so scared. I don't want to exercise because it hurts or it makes me tired, or it's actually the complete
Mhm.
opposite. But you
No,
just
it's the
have to start.
opposite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. So let's talk about the fourth pillar, recovery.
Mm.
How important is it for longevity, you think?
It's just as important as all the others. It's for me probably
Hmm.
my downfall. Um,
Mm.
Self care as well as part of that. Not great at it. Getting better as I get older, but I think again as you age, it gets more and more and more important. And there's so many little biohacks. We talked about that. What you can
Hmm.
do with recovery. I could go through like some of my key ones that I use if you want.
Yeah, but first, so what's your definition of recovery? You know,
So
I
many.
mean, let's talk about the basic. I mean, because you don't have the same definition than me and
Right.
probably a lot of different people. So.
I would say how quickly you can sort of go again, like how well your body reacts to the stresses of say exercise and strength, and how ready it is to go again. And the quicker it is, kind of really the fitter you are.
Hmm.
And again, it slows down as you get older, but there's ways you can help that. There's lots of things you can do to improve it, improve your
Hmm.
recovery. But I would say, and sleep is a big part of it, food's a big part of it,
Hmm.
stretching mobility is a big part of it.
Hmm.
Uh,
So
Sleep
you
is
said
one we don't talk
so.
about enough. Sleep is everything. Yeah.
So yeah, so let's talk about like the strategies for recovery. So
Sure.
sleep, obviously, it's like really really important.
Yep.
And how do you manage sleep with exercising? I mean, a lot of time you're like, okay, I got to do it every day. I got like Coach Bek. She's pushing me, but then I had a bad sleep, whatever the reason,
Mm.
and then so, I mean, what do I do? Do I do my workout or do I skip the workout?
Yeah, I know. It's so hard. Like, because we didn't even have a lot of those aura rings or measuring your sleep or HRV. My
No, but
HR
even if you have a bad sleep, even if you don't have any,
measurement,
my
it.
wife, yeah, she doesn't measure her sleep, but she knows
Me
when she
too.
wake up and feel bad. I mean,
I
so
know.
I mean,
That's kind
should
of
we
where you
go
listen.
through it?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's where listening to your body is just so important, being in tune with that. Like as an athlete, like if I didn't sleep, too bad. It's your job. You get up and you train. Like, and
exactly.
you just
Yeah.
have to train by how you feel. Like I'd have days where, like before a race, I never slept the night before. Not even maybe 1 hour. Like it's crazy. And then I have to get up and do an Ironman. But I knew that the day before. So if the race was Sunday, Friday night, like I would just, if even if I went to sleep at 2, I would try to get my 8 hours because I knew that the day before the race, I was not going to sleep. And it's just,
Because of
some
stress,
people
or
do, but most people don't sleep. So,
but was it because of
yeah.
stress
Oh,
or
I was
just
like,
like thinking
fuck, this is
about
going to
your?
hurt. Yeah, the race, always the
Mm,
race. And
mm,
very rarely would, very rarely pro athletes have good sleeps the night before. So, but it builds up.
true.
Like it doesn't matter specific. It wouldn't matter so much to the body. It would help probably if you slept obviously the night before. But it's the build up to that that's so much more important. It's over time. It's
Mm,
accumulative. You have to be very mindful of your sleep leading up to the race. But I always like I'm a really good sleeper. Thank God. I had sleep issues when
mm,
I was younger, but 8 hours for me is just personal. I think there's people that like Gary Vee who says you only need 5 hours. I don't know, as you get older, I think sleep is where, like that deep REM sleep is where the body's recovering. Like we have to
mm,
get our deep sleep in. And Siri's really big. It's funny because she's so not data driven, but then when my wife sleeps, she has her aura ring and she's obsessed with her sleep patterns.
that's
Like
that's her metric.
that's her metric. Like she'll go,
Mm,
and I'll say, I don't need a ring to tell me that I slept well. I freaking didn't wake up all night. I know I slept well, but did I get a good deep sleep? Like my deep sleep's terrible. It's like maybe 1.5 hours where she'll get 2.5. So I know I'm not recovering. But the more I
sure.
measure it, the more I freak out and the more I won't sleep. So I'm not a fan of measuring it. She is. Everyone's different. But I think sleep
Mm,
is one of the
mm,
best recoveries. It's so important. And to
yeah.
go to bed with as much as you can with the sun and like wake up with the
Mm,
sun. Try not go to bed when the moon comes up, but you want to try to go to bed at a reasonable hour because anything after kind of midnight is not technically considered, the best, apparently the best time to sleep. So I try to say, and this is just personal,
mm,
go to bed by like 9:30, 10 is my sort of thing because I have athletes who will go to bed. Oh, I didn't go to bed till midnight. And then they're wondering why when they got up at 5 to go swimming, they felt like shit. I'm like, really?
yeah.
Yeah. So I think I always say like
Mm,
7 to 8 hours, and that's just personal. I usually get at least
mhm,
8, sometimes 9. I go to bed at 9:30, and I'm like wide awake by 6 o'clock, like ready to go.
mhm.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. And I mean, do you personally, with your experience and all of your community, like does sauna or cold plunge or like foam rolling, like massage therapy, like what was like, the things that they were the most efficient
I think
or
all of
the
those things are
personal?
great. Like they're all forms of like hormosis, right? Of like these little micro doses of like let's shock the body, and it will like really help. We don't. I've never really done cold plunge or really sauna, but I know there's huge benefits from it.
Yeah.
If you can freaking do it, do it. All those things, sleeping. And then my routine is like I have a sleep app, so I listen to like we listen to like Soul Sync, it's called, and it's like a calming meditation. And
Okay.
then I always have like a green noise. It's like green noise on the Calm app. I like to
Sure.
have like a noise block in case something wakes me up in the night. I'd rather have sleep all the way through. So we have kind of that's our noise blocker is this green noise, or you can have pink noise, white noise. But we do like a sleep. It's called Soul Sync. It's amazing, you guys. If you want to
Soul
download
sync.
Soul Sync, it's unreal. It's you
Okay.
always fall asleep with it. Well, I do. I'm not going to say everyone, but I
I
have.
fall asleep like that.
Yeah, me
I'm so
too.
blessed.
And so
I'm
I
very
do my
good.
magnesium. I do my
Mhm.
magnesium to relax my muscles, and it's really good anyway if you're sweating a lot. But magnesium, sometimes CBD if I'm having issues sleeping, which is very rare. And then our sleep calm, our app, sleep app, and then I never
Ooh.
wake up to an alarm anymore. As an athlete, I had to. I hated it. It was like 5:30. My body was so exhausted from training because we train like 8 hours a day. But here, since retiring, don't even need an alarm. Never had to have an alarm. I'm always awake at like 6:30 with the sun.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Okay, so we would say sleep is very important, and like what I mean,
What other stuff?
yeah, but I mean on a weekly routine, like on a weekly schedule, would you say like I mean, is there like just listen to your body basically? I mean, just go for a walk if you feel like you're too tired, and just go slower.
I don't know. It's so hard. Like that's why again I don't like using like the sleep watches like a metrics watch to tell me whether I slept well because there was times as an athlete where I knew I'd only had 3 hours sleep and then I'd have the best workout ever. I'd be like, I'm
Hmm.
so tired, but I had to go to the pool and do a time trial and I killed it. I might be
Yeah,
tired after it, but I think sometimes you're in your head a lot too. So I
yeah.
mean, you can. It's the fine line because it's like listen to my body, and sometimes you can feel so exhausted, and then if you just get your foot out the door, just get out there for
Hmm.
5 minutes,
And
and
then,
yeah, and
hmm,
that's where like where I'm on board with you with heart rate. Like if you get out and you start running, and your heart rate is like 20 beats higher than it was, you know, the other day, like that's saying something. That's like, you're
hmm,
fatigued. Like you're either really anxious or just completely exhausted. And you can be mentally exhausted and your heart rate can be up. So that, and you'd feel it too. Like you don't need a watch to tell you.
yeah,
Like I go out running and I can feel, oh, my heart rate's so high today. Like I must be exhausted. I'm not going to, I might try and do a little interval. Very rarely I'll go, I'm not feeling it. I'm not going to do it. I'll just do it to effort. I'm like, oh, today my 9 out of 10, my heart rate might only go to 145 today. Oh, well, I'm still feeling like I'm a 9 out of 10 effort. So just
hmm.
listen to your body. Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. So, is there something else that you would like to share
Yes.
on recovery?
Sure. My like so important I think is alkalizing and your
Mm,
nutrition comes into big play when it
mm.
comes to recovery. We haven't talked much about nutrition, but
No,
I
but that's so
yeah,
important.
so important. So we and I think also I call it timed eating. People call it
Mm,
fasting. Fasting sounds like you're taking something away. I don't think you need to fast, but I call it timed eating and it's basically eating for 8 hours of the day. All my guys do it. My athletes I used to get up and eat in the middle of the night because I was starving. Like for athletes that are endurance athletes, not as important because it is important, but I think as you get into longevity and working on that, I think timed eating is really important. And basically, I say you want to do it with the sun and the moon. You want to do it with, I forget what you call that, but you want to do it with the time of the day. So I say to my guys, we eat dinner, say you finish by 8 o'clock, then don't eat breakfast till at least 8, and if you can kind of move it towards 10 and more middle like mid-morning, 14 hours of it's called like what happens is it's called autophagy, which is cell cleansing or
hmm.
self-cleansing for your body, getting rid of toxins, reducing the chances of having like cancer
But that's
cells.
fasting. I mean, that's it's just like you use another term, but
Yeah, I just
what you're
don't like the word
explaining to me.
fasting. I feel like it's like you got to fast. Like fast for me in Australia, we had the 40-hour famine and you couldn't eat for 40 hours. So I'm like, oh, I don't want to
Got it.
restrict. I love food. Most people
Okay, so
love food.
time to eating.
Timed eating, yeah, or my timed eating, time restricted eating, but it's really not. It's like when the sun comes up, like you have your breakfast, but I would try to say like the more you can go towards the 14 to 16 hours from eating dinner, like the better because it's going to cause that self cleansing like
Okay,
autophagy,
yeah,
cleansing the body,
but
getting rid of
like
toxins. Yeah.
me, and that's a personal, like parenthesis, but I'm burning calories like crazy, So like, if I want to maintain, like, I wish to gain more weight,
Hmm.
but when
Hmm.
I did try to, I went on a vegan diet and I went on a fasting, like for a couple of months and I think 1 year.
Wow.
But yeah, my weight just went down. I mean, it's just like so. I'm scared. I'm
I would
scared
never
to.
do it as an athlete. As you're younger, there's not as much need to do it, but there is good, I guess, good reasons for health reasons. It also helps with microbiome. So your microbiome is
Sure.
your gut biosis, right? And I had issues with that being an endurance athlete because under so much
Hmm.
GI stress as an athlete, and
Mm.
I had a lot of issues with gut dysbiosis, and most of us do in America. Actually, I read the other day 93% of Americans are
Mm.
pre diabetic or diabetic.
That's terrible.
What the
That's like.
So this
Yeah,
helps with that too. Like so does HIIT
yeah,
exercise. Like
absolutely.
I have got people have been type 2 diabetes and they're no longer type 2 because they're working
Yeah.
out. Like don't change anything else or fast
Just-
and don't exercise. But doing
mhm.
both is obviously the ideal scenario, but it helps with your gut microbiome if you can fast because your gut gets a chance to like
Mhm.
reestablish the good microbiome. And then again, protein and fiber is really good for your first meal, not fat or sugar or processed crap, carbohydrates, cakes, like croissants,
Yeah,
what most Americans eat. Like that's not what you want to eat for your first meal. but
sure.
but it's so important. And then like I try to lean more my guys more towards eating organic. Obviously it can be a
Hmm.
little more
Hmm.
expensive, but especially in America, I don't know what's like in Canada, but in Australia it's very
Hmm.
hard. Like pesticides and herbicides are pretty much banned. And I know Roundup is completely banned. Glyphosate is completely banned in Australia. So we're very fortunate. But here, it's everywhere. It's
Yeah.
sprayed everywhere. Even organic has chemicals, herbicides, and
Mhm.
pesticides. So
Yeah, that's
I
terrible.
wash, yeah. So I wash my fruit and vegetables like for like quite a long time before we eat them, even when they're organic,
Mm.
because you don't. It's cancer causing. You see all these like big um, uh, lawsuits for Roundup because the glyphosate's causing lymphomas and cancers. And my wife's a leukemia survivor. I swear to God,
And
it's
they
from
still spray it, and they
yeah,
still do it. I mean,
yeah.
that's killing people. That's what I call killing people,
It
like.
is.
Hmm.
I can't believe it's even allowed here. It's banned in
Yeah.
Australia, but
Yeah.
that's so organic. And then I mean, I'm a coffee drinker, but I'm very careful with what I drink. Like I use Life Boost. There's many good ones, but it's very 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 low acid. It's organic. It
Mm.
doesn't cause the inflammation that crappy like Vulgar's coffee would cause or instant coffee. And I'm really cautious with what I drink. I only usually have one a day. I used to have five a day, and I
Hmm.
alkalize before I do any of that in the morning. The first thing I do is I alkalize. I have greens, F2C greens, which is basically fruits and vegetables. It's like a
Is
massive
it a
dose of that.
supplement or is
What's
this
that?
a supplement? Is this a supplement or
It's
like
yeah,
a?
it's like a supplement. Yeah, you could do it with like a celery juice or a green juice. You want to have organic if you can, and I do that on an empty stomach. And the one that we use, apparently from the owners, the company, we're very close with them because we're sponsored by them, and it's Canadian
Right.
F2C Greens. Yeah, F2C. And they sponsor all the Olympic athletes, so it's very highly tested, all organic. The whey protein, they're all um,
Mm.
grass fed. Like I don't use the whey, I use the pea protein, but they're all grass fed and they're obviously humanely raised, and so I'm very adamant about that. But we use the greens in the morning on an empty stomach to alkalize our blood, and
Mm.
apparently it can alkalize the blood for up to 24 hours, which is
Oh wow,
crazy
that's good.
if you have it on an empty stomach. So Siri and I, every morning I have my little love note from Siri and my greens. She always writes me a new note, and that's the first thing we do. And then I don't usually have, and that's after like a 14-hour usually timed eating, 14 to 16. And then I really don't usually have
Does it break the
breakfast.
fast? Does it break your
It
fast
it
or?
that's why I usually wait. It does, yeah. That's why I usually don't do it for like 14 hours. Like I have it after about it's like 10 o'clock or something. I was doing
Okay.
it earlier, and I was like, I'm actually breaking my fast literally right here. They say like eggs, like I've Dr. Mindy Peltz is one of my favorite functional medicine doctors, and she's saying that if you eat an egg or the certain proteins, it doesn't break your fast. I'm like, oh, I could
Oh,
have an egg, a boiled egg. Coffee's good. It's
coffee
all
doesn't
good
break the
without
fast.
milk. Yeah, doesn't break your fast.
Yeah, but when you brush your teeth, does it break the
Oh
fast?
God, I don't know. I just
I
spit the
don't know.
toothpaste out.
That's another story. Nice. So, but that's so true. So, but you talk about nutrition, but would you say nutrition is it part of recovery or
Yeah. Oh, I just it
it's
should be one
another
of these.
pillar?
It's another pillar. I didn't even think
Yeah.
it's another pillar. I have an
Yeah.
exercise nutrition background, and it's changed kind of quite a bit since I was. There's so much awesome new study that has come out since I studied it back in like 2000. But yeah, eating organic, reducing inflammation, coffee, wine, alcohol, it's all acidic, all causes
Hmm.
inflammation. Gluten
Yeah.
causes inflammation. Like stay away from processed foods, like eat from the ground, eat lean meat and protein if you are a meat eater. Get your fish in, vegetables, fruits, nuts, good oils, olive
Mm.
oil, organic olive oil, and coconut oil. And then it's just really simple. Like keep it simple.
Yeah.
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 Wow. What a conversation, my
Oh my
dear.
gosh, my mouth's full.
Ah, thank you so much. You cover so much stuff, and I'm gonna do like a small summary of that, and that's amazing. So, Is there anything else you wanted to share before I add like one or two closing questions?
I don't know. Literally, you can reach out to me. I'm on Instagram, Beck_Keat, I think it is. But just look up Beck Keat, Bekkat. Just reach me on Instagram, or you can email me. Jonathan can put it in there. I'm happy to help. I love this. It's my wheelhouse, and I just want everybody to live longer and not get sick and feel good. So yeah.
Absolutely. So important. So important. So if you would recommend just one exercise or one habit that someone can start today to live a longer, healthier life, what would it be?
I would say get up, get out the door, do your 15-minute workout, try to get your heart rate up a little bit, like huffy puffy, I call it, if you don't understand what heart rate means. But get some huffy puffiness, get the EKG going like this, up and down, because the flat line's not good. That is not good. And just do little intervals, like if you can, even if it's 30 seconds hard, minute easy, 5 times, do it, 5 minutes. Just get out the door
Move.
and do it every day. It'll get easier.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Coach Beck.
Thank
And
you.
I know you just said it, but can you remind us where can we reach out to you?
I'm trying to even remember my Instagram. I just
Okay,
changed it. No, it's
so
Beck underscore Keat. Yeah, it's just Beck underscore Keat on Instagram. That's me. There we go.
you got it.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. And I'll list that below. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and experience. That was an amazing conversation, and looking forward to talk to you very soon. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching the podcast. And I wish you to live a healthy and longer life beyond 100 years old. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jonathan. Woo.